Unsung Murder Ballads discusses topics of a graphic nature and in graphic detail and may not be suitable for children under 13. Listener discretion is advised.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Unsung Murder Ballads. This is episode 30. I am Janus Dead,
I'm Jameson dead.
and we are joined tonight by our friend Nova. Say hello, Nova.
Hi.
All right. So, yeah, we're going to have some fun tonight. This episode, so I don't even know how to begin to explain this. That's how funny this episode
You're
is.
at a, you are at a loss for words. Seriously?
I am.
Wow.
It's not a crazy episode where you're going to find yourself completely shocked, but
Okay.
it is
All right.
very unique.
All right. Let's get into it.
So let me ask you guys a question. Would either of
Okay.
you ever consider going to Antarctica?
No. Absolutely not.
Just
Never in
never.
a million years.
All right. Well, that kind of takes away my next question. I was going to ask if you would be willing to stay for days.
No.
So both of you are just like absolutely not. Not even on a.
All right. I'll take that back. I mean, if the financial implications were in my favor, then I might be more willing to
Okay.
subject myself to that kind of weather. But yeah,
All right.
uh,
So if money is no object, would you go to Antarctica?
yes,
Maybe.
yes, I would.
Maybe. Okay. So some little quick facts about Antarctica before we go on. In the summer, Antarctica gets quote unquote warm at 33 to 36 degrees.
Wow.
So that's
Oh,
crazy.
that's insane.
Yeah, that's a half a degree or 2 degrees Celsius for all our non-American listeners. In the summer, they can have up to 24 hours of sunlight a day, which is just crazy. Now,
Wow.
now in the winter, it gets as cold as -5 to -76 degrees out.
Oh my God, my spine just like, oh
Oh,
no.
that's too cold. Too cold.
Way too cold. And for our non-American listeners, that's -15 to -60 degrees Celsius. Now, let me ask you a question. Would you guys spend months there if it was your job?
Yes,
It depends
yes.
on
If
how
it,
much I was getting paid.
Good answer. Well, I can say personally, that's too ridiculously cold, and especially in the winter, there are times that it's over, an entire day of darkness. So for me, that's a big nope. I also don't like the cold. Now, imagine you're in a situation where you're working there, and one of the people you're living with suddenly dies under mysterious circumstances.
oh boy.
Oh,
Yeah.
goodness.
So this is the strange case of Rodney Marks, and as of this recording, it is the only known murder case in Antarctica. So to our knowledge, no one else has ever been murdered there. There's only been one, and this is that case.
What's population down there?
The population is whatever the scientists' numbers are that go down to work there. No one actually lives there.
No, I know. I just like I didn't know if like when they were living down there for whatever they're doing for research, if they had gotten
Okay.
numbers.
I do have numbers for that, and I'll get to those shortly. Before we get into the story of Rodney Marks, I'm going to give you a small history lesson on Antarctica. The first known scientific exploration to Antarctica began in August of 1897. It was a Belgian Antarctic expedition that traveled there in the frigid waters aboard a ship called the Belgica without any concerns at all, like they didn't have any issues, for 7 months. However, once winter hit, the sea began to freeze around them and they found themselves trapped. The captain of that ship wrote a book and talked about how basically everyone on that ship went nuts. They found themselves in really horrible conditions. And he talked about how they started having paranoia and they were just terrified. So in Antarctica, during the summer, which lasts from October to February, the sun doesn't even set for more than 2 months. So it's constant light. And during the winter, which lasts from March to September, the sun barely even rises for most of that time. And the record cold down there is minus 129 degrees.
Oh my God, that's ridiculous.
Nope.
No.
Nope.
Uh-uh.
Nope.
I can't even imagine that. And that's minus 89 Celsius for all of our non-American listeners. So basically, people started going down there more in the early 1900s. And one of this explorer named Frank Wild wrote in a journal that he had been there 6 times, and every single time the solitude of it brought the worst out in people, that their mental state just started to go crazy. They would fray. They were herded together and too close to in quarters to try to stay warm. And he basically kind of was saying it's not a good idea to go down there. But of course, throughout the 1900s, we sent more and more people down despite all those conditions. And by the 1950s, we built the first research center on Antarctica. That was completed in February of 1957. And that was the first time any sufficient number of researchers actually lived and worked down there. Like they would stay in man-made, buildings, so to speak.
Imagine being the poor souls that had to put that together.
Yeah, that's a lot of work.
Man, that would be awful.
Yeah, that'd be terrible. No, thank you. Basically, due to the increased interest in polar research, the National Science Foundation reported that the original station that was built in 1957 had to be enlarged and expanded. So in 1975, they put together one that was even bigger. This was called the Amundsen Scott Station, and it's located at the geographical South Pole at an elevation of 9,300 feet, roughly. The average temperature of this station is between 8 degrees and minus 115 degrees throughout the year. And they
Man, if it hit double digits, they'd be, going sunbathing.
Well, no,
yeah, this is summertime. It's 10 degrees outside. Woo!
Right. But no, the funny part is we said the warmest it generally gets is 36. So, right. Maybe not on that point. And the average snowfall is 8 inches every time.
No.
Yeah. No, thank you.
Oh, man.
That station is run by the National Science Foundation. That's a United States government agency. But much of that work is subcontracted to a company called Raytheon. According to the National Science Foundation, this station can support multiple branches of scientific research, including astronomy, astrophysics, biology, climate systems, geophysics, and glaciology, which I didn't even know was a thing. This station is busiest in the summer, and here's your, Jameson, here are your numbers. It's busiest in the summer with 150 scientists and support personnel present.
Wow.
But in the winter, it goes down to about 50 people. So that's 50 people that stay in total darkness for 6 months.
Yeah, see, I think that would screw me up more than the cold. The whole, complete darkness 24 hours and complete light 24 hours. Like, no, I need to know, what time of day it is. Like, if it's 11 o'clock at night and it's bright sunshine out, that's going to ruin me.
I don't know. See, I've gone to bed when it was dark and woken up and it was dark, or there are times that I go to work so early it's dark, and by the time I get out, it's dark. So I just feel like I live in that life.
I like the dark, but I couldn't live in the dark.
Yeah, agreed.
Like, that just wouldn't be possible for me.
Right, but you're not in you're in a building though. And this is what I think Jameson's missing is you're in a building that was built. So you have electricity. You may not even notice the dark.
That is true.
So people working at that station also experience severe boredom, homesickness, feelings of isolation, and the stress of being confined with all their colleagues, especially if they don't get along with each other. So to counter all these issues, they were encouraged to generate camaraderie and teamwork between themselves and build up a strong support network for everyone at the station. That way they didn't feel so alone and isolated and sad. The coldest of these days start in March, and the weather makes it incredibly dangerous in the winter. So basically, if you're part of that winter crew, there are no flights home for 6 months. You're basically stuck there. And you know that going in.
Yeah, that's a huge decision to make.
To do that, you have to undergo extensive medical testing to ensure that you're in good health to be able to make that 6-month darkness, freezing cold kind of commitment. So some of these requirements include having perfect dental health and the absence of pre-existing conditions that might require surgery. Basically means that if you need a root canal, you're stuck. If you if you needed to have your appendix taken out or something, that's it. You're dealing with it. You're not going to be able to leave because they can't get anyone to you. It's too cold and too dangerous. So candidates also have to undergo a series of psychological tests and interviews. to make sure that they're not going to, kind of go nuts from all the isolation. And something else I did look up, to date, 11 people have been born on Antarctica.
What?
That's
So,
crazy. That's crazy.
yeah, so apparently my guess is at least 11 women have been pregnant while arriving on Antarctica to work there and gave birth while they were there. And I'm hoping that was during the summer when they could get out.
So here's my question. You know how you have to go and get your birth certificate for certain things and you need to go to, the place where you were born?
Right.
How does that work?
You would be the citizen of whatever country you represented down there. Yeah, I would assume that if you were from, like, if you and your wife were from the city of Melbourne, Australia, and she gave birth in, Antarctica, then it would really just be Melbourne, Australia, because people do give birth while on cruise ships and while overseas on vacation. So
This is true. Yep.
yeah, so my guess is it would be something like that. Rodney Marks, the person we're discussing today, he underwent the same medical and psychological testing as everyone else that worked there. So that's something to keep in mind as we tell his story. He also fully understood the implications of living in these extreme conditions. And he actually had spent the winter in Antarctica from 1997 into 98 at that very same station. So he's kind of an old pro at this. So shortly after arriving at the Scott Amundsen station in November of 99, Marks, he met and fell in love with a fellow researcher named Sonia Walter. Within 2 months, they were engaged. That's
Wow,
fast.
that happened quick.
Yeah, but if you're stuck alone, like you're on this freezing tundra and you're stuck there, I can see that happening.
Yeah, okay.
It's kind of like those reality shows where they're stuck on an island with each other, and after only 2 weeks, they think they're in love.
They have a lot of time to get to know each other too.
Exactly. So Marks's daily routine included a half-mile walk between the main station to the observatory where he worked and back. So basically, he's going to walk through the snow a half a mile forward and backwards every day. In his free time, he actually taught other researchers astronomy. He would play poker with them, and he just generally hung out with his colleagues. And from all reports that I read, he was also a musician and would play music. So that's kind of cool. Unless you hate that kind of music, and then that would suck being stuck there. So Mark was born in Geelong, Victoria in Australia, and he received his education from the University of Melbourne. Later, he obtained his PhD from the University of New South Wales. Mark also had Tourette syndrome. Now, for those who don't know, Tourette syndrome is a nervous system condition that causes people to have what are called tics, which are basically sudden twitches, movements, sound that they do repeatedly, and it's often involuntary, like they have no control over it. And as of right now, as of this recording, there's no known cure for Tourette's, but there are a lot of treatments that you can undergo. On the evening of May 11th, 2000, Marks was returning to the main station when he began feeling ill. He mentioned to a colleague of his that his eyes were hurting and that he had a burning pain in his stomach. Now, I don't know about you guys. I've never been so sick that my eyes hurt.
Yeah, no. The only time I've ever had anything like that is if like I had a migraine or something, but
Yeah, but
no,
that's
I
not
haven't.
your eyes. That's like behind your eyes.
Well, yeah, okay. But I mean, as far as being so sick that my eyes hurt, that's the only time. I mean,
Other than getting poked in the eye, I've never
well,
had eye pain.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So at 5:30 the following morning, Marks woke up with severe stomach pain and started throwing up blood.
Oh, that's not a good sign.
Ugh.
Although he visited the station's doctor, a Dr. Robert Thompson, on 2 separate occasions, the doctor was unable to make a definitive diagnosis based on Mark's symptoms. So he had no idea what this guy had.
Well, yeah, because it could be anything.
Yeah, I mean, maybe, but he is a doctor. Dr. Thompson eventually gave Marks a sedative and suggested that he may be experiencing severe anxiety or withdrawal from alcohol, which,
Okay. Two really drastic different
right.
possibilities, but okay.
And as someone who doesn't drink, I don't know what withdrawal from alcohol is, like what that would feel like. But pain behind in your eyes, I don't know. So,
Yeah, there's got to be something more going on here.
so as his symptoms continued to get worse, Marks went back to the doctor a third time. Thompson gave Marks an antipsychotic, which sedated him immediately. However,
Okay, that's great, but what about the side? There's got to be side effects to that. There's no.
after Marks lost consciousness, he died.
No,
What?
that's a hell of a side effect.
Yeah, yeah, he died.
That's crazy.
He fell asleep.
That's just insane.
Yeah, he just never woke up. The National Science Foundation issued a statement saying that Rodney Marks had apparently died of natural causes, but that
Wow.
but the specific cause had not yet been determined, which is
Okay.
ridiculous.
Yeah. Why would you? I mean, I guess you got to cover your ass somehow.
I think they were trying to avoid making people panic at the station, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Again, the exact cause of his death couldn't be determined until his body was removed from Antarctica and flown back for an autopsy. So the case received media attention as the quote, first South Pole murder. But at the time that this was being like released that way, people were talking about it as a possible suicide, although that seemed unlikely, which again, I don't know where they get suicide from. But I mean, if the guy's going to the doctor over and over again, unless he's trying to hide his own suicide.
No, I think that, it goes back to what you were saying and trying to not have everybody freak out and try to keep the calm and not have other people looking into it.
Maybe. Nova, I know this is your first time joining us, but Jameson here has certain things he really dislikes about police investigations.
Oh, we're gonna get into the cop stuff. Yay.
Almost.
Let's see how they blow it this time.
I like investigation and stuff. I think it's pretty cool.
I mean, I love investigating, but they make crucial mistakes that they shouldn't make, and that's what drives Jameson completely batshit crazy.
I think we should do an entire episode about cop screw ups in cases.
That would be a funny episode.
I'm picturing Jameson needing emergency services one time, and then the cops are going to find out he does this true crime podcast.
Yeah,
like, oh, you're that guy.
Oh, it's you? Nope, you're dying.
Yeah, we'll get there eventually. As there was no reason to believe that foul play was involved, Marks's belongings were removed from his office and living quarters, and his other colleagues were allowed to use his space.
Well,
so
strike 1 and 2.
So some of his personal belongings were put in storage, but many of those possessions were just thrown away.
Oh my God, no.
So yeah, any evidence that anything that they might have provided, gone.
Is gone. Yep. And the office. You can't just let somebody move right in there.
No, but they did.
But they did, of course. Why wouldn't they?
So Marks's body was held for nearly 6 months over the winter until it could be flown to Christchurch, New Zealand, which is a base for American activities in Antarctica for an autopsy. Once in New Zealand, a post-mortem established that Marks had died from methanol poisoning.
Ooh, okay.
I figured it was some sort of poison-based thing. It makes sense, like the symptoms and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know what else it could have been if he's showing signs of being sick. I agree. So both the United States and Australia agreed that there should be a coroner's inquest conducted in New Zealand so that both Australia and the US weren't involved in trying to cover anything up. Now, methanol is an ingredient that's used in industrial strength pesticides and solvents, which are kind of things you'd test in a lab. So this may have been just around, like out for people to take in this kind of environment. According to the CDC,
means someone could have put it in something for him to ingest.
Possibly. Now, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, they state that methanol can occur naturally in some fruits and vegetables, but not in the levels we're talking about to kill somebody. And it's also present in some drinks that are made with aspartame, which is like fake sugar.
Yeah, it's in diet sodas, isn't it?
Yeah, it's some of them. So basically, if you drink high enough amount of that, you can suffer the same symptoms as methanol. So in addition to ingestion, there are several different ways methanol can enter your body, and that includes contact with your eyes, inhalation, which breathing it in, or contact to your skin. So now, having served in the military and trained under chemical warfare, the fastest way to get something in your system is through your eyes. They talk about how if you get splashed in the eyes with something, very quickly wash that stuff out, because that's the fastest way. You have so many blood vessels in your eyeballs that it's the fastest way to get it in and get it to your heart. So the fact that this is mentioned and that he had pain in his eyes does make me wonder that maybe something happened and it wasn't intentional.
Amazed at the fact that that's the quickest way. Like I never knew that. So
Yeah, it's
definitely learning stuff tonight.
yeah, that's why the gas mask always includes something that covers your eyes.
That would have had to have been some accident.
Yeah, and you'd think he'd tell the doctor if that happened.
Yeah, like you would have said something if something like that had happened.
That's true. She just punched a hole right in my theory.
Oh boy.
Wow, one episode in and she's an expert.
Yep. Oh, you're being destroyed there, Janus.
Right? So the CDC does report that symptoms of methanol poisoning can begin within an hour of exposure. However, some patients remain asymptomatic, which means they don't show any signs of it for up to 3 days after being exposed. So right there, unfortunately, opens a big window in terms of the investigating this guy's potential murder. Early symptoms of methanol poisoning include confusion, drowsiness, headaches, visual disturbances and irritations, and issues with coordination, like trying to pick things up and move and all that good stuff. The more severe symptoms range from seizures and vomiting to severe heart and lung complications. I almost wonder how much when this guy sedated him that increased the problem.
Oh yeah. I didn't even think about that.
Jurisdiction that involve crimes in Antarctica are quite complicated because
Oh my God, yeah, I can only imagine.
no one owns any land down there. So most American operations within Antarctica, including this South Pole base, are within what is known a territory that's known as the Ross Dependency Territory, which is claimed by New Zealand. And that's who sends supplies and all that good stuff is New Zealand. However, and not surprisingly, the US government does not accept that New Zealand claims this territory. They're basically saying, we don't care what you say, we're here too, it's not your territory. And that's basically so the US can do what they want and not have to worry about laws from New Zealand.
Oh, lovely.
So New Zealand has never questioned the fact that the US uses marshals in relation to crimes down there that involve only Americans. So as long as it doesn't involve the citizen of another country, New Zealand never complains that the US kind of polices its own. So that doesn't help the situation because now the US feels they can kind of do whatever they want. So an investigation was undertaken by Detective Senior Sergeant Grant Wormald. Oh my God, that's a hard one.
That's quite the name.
Yeah, Grant Wormald. Sounds like something out of Harry Potter.
It does.
So he was heading the investigation into Rodney's death, and he was actually limited by a lack of cooperation from Rodney's colleagues.
Really?
His own coworkers didn't want to cooperate with police and their investigation.
Does that mean they're trying to hide something, or like what? What
was that?
That's a little suspicious.
It's super suspicious. Yes, that right there makes me nervous. You got to wonder how many people didn't like this guy. So New Zealand authorities were initially denied access to a list of scientists and other personnel that were living at the station when he died. They couldn't even get a list of names.
That's insane.
Yeah. And then
and that seems really basic too.
You would think so. And when they finally did get that information, law enforcement officials sent questionnaires to all 49 other people that worked at the station when Marks died. Only 13 of them bothered to return the questionnaire.
It wasn't required? What?
Nope.
It should have been required. Like, it's an investigation.
But most of those people weren't citizens of New Zealand, so New Zealand has no authority over them. That would be like a teacher from another school telling you to do homework, but that's not your teacher, and it's not even at your school. So why would you do the homework and give it to them?
That doesn't make sense. I understand them not sending it back.
Yeah, I mean, you would think you'd want to help police solve this crime, but
Yeah.
only 13 people even bothered. So Wormald suggested that some of the people may have, quote unquote, thought twice about contacting police based on the risk of not getting hired again by that company in the future. Because
Okay.
Raytheon's the company that's running all this. So, and they pay well. So I think they may have just been afraid to cooperate and bring any attention for fear of their jobs. So that's one of the reasons the detectives think only 13 people responded. Now, during interviews concerning Marks's death, Dr. Robert Thompson stated that he had what was called an ectochem blood analyzer available to him that could have assisted in diagnosing Marks with the methanol poisoning.
Maybe the doctor was in on the whole thing.
Maybe. It's funny, this is your first episode, and you're as good as Jameson and Joyous at predicting things I'm about to say. That's really funny.
She fits in quite well.
It's amazing.
I'm a fast learner.
So Thompson said that machine wasn't working properly due to a dead battery. The battery
That's
allowed
a lie.
the battery allowed the machine to be turned off and back on without having to be recalibrated each time. But he said the battery was dead, and that to turn it off without that battery, it would take several hours before the machine could be used, and every time it was turned back on. So he did claim that he tried to fix the machine and simply just leave it on, but he decided against it, claiming that it wouldn't be necessary for the basic routine medical examinations. Now, there was another physician from Seattle named Will Silva, and he knew Marks and had spent 3 different seasons down there at that South Pole station. Silva said that ectochem blood analyzer was not that difficult to use or to repair, and that Thompson had internet and a satellite phone and could have called for help both in fixing the machine and to get other doctors' diagnoses on Mark's condition. So basically, he could have gotten more help from Mark, but didn't. Now, here's the most fucked up part.
Oh boy.
Dr. Robert Thompson has been missing since everyone left Antarctica. No one can find him now.
$5 says he changed his name and moved somewhere exotic.
Maybe. Literally to this day, his whereabouts are unknown.
Oh, lovely.
So Nova called it. Most likely this guy killed him. My guess is he's jealous over the girl.
Everything points to him, pretty much. Like he had all the ability to get more help, but didn't.
Yeah, I think we have a future investigator here. What do you think, Jameson?
I like it. Yep, I completely agree.
So here's what Jameson's going to want you to do, Nova. If you decide to go into law enforcement, always remember, always remember, if the child is missing, it doesn't mean they ran away. Right? That's number 1, right?
Yep.
Don't contaminate the crime scene.
Don't throw anything away. Don't clean anything up.
Yeah.
Don't let witnesses go or anything.
Right.
What else am I missing here?
Don't forget to read them their Miranda rights.
Yes. Oh, that was a big one.
I'll make sure to remember those.
All right, good to know. Then when you're a cop, you can get us out of jail.
All right.
All right. So a formal verdict in Rodney Marks' death has never been formally entered. So in 2006, statements to the media raised questions from the police regarding whether or not Marks was actually poisoned. Investigator Wormald said that in his view, it's most likely that Marks ingested that methanol unknowingly, that someone put it in his drink.
It was the doctor.
Yeah, it was. I'm thinking that's probably right, unless the doctor,
because he gave him like an antibiotic,
antipsychotic,
and he could have slipped it in that for him to take.
That's true. But there is the possibility that the doctor was working for someone else who took him out.
Oh yeah, that is true.
Yeah,
that is true.
He might have been tied up with the mafia, or like there's an Antarctica mafia. That'd be kind of crazy.
It's a bunch of penguins with guns.
I can picture that. That's funny.
So that investigator also said that it's not likely that Marks tried to kill himself because he had just recently entered a new relationship. He was trying to complete important academic work, and he didn't owe any money. So it's unlikely that he drank that methanol on purpose. And he promptly sought treatment for the illness that kind of started messing him up. He didn't waste any time because if he tried to kill himself, he would have stayed in his room, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
He would have
basically,
stayed isolated so nobody could find it out.
exactly. So Wormald indicates that Raytheon and the National Science Foundation had not been cooperative with their investigation. So he's basically 100% convinced that Raytheon and the NSF basically tried to cover it all up. He also stated about Mark's death being called natural causes. He said, "We wanted the results of their investigation to get in contact with people to ask some questions that they weren't prepared to tell us," which basically means no one wanted to talk to them because no one had any idea what was going on and they didn't want to have any kind of backlash on their company. So it's all about money.
It's a horrible thing that makes the world go round.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously he thinks they were withholding information from him, and he's not entirely satisfied that all the relevant information from the reports have been disclosed to the New Zealand police or their coroner. And the
And they
US
never will be.
No, probably not at this point. And the US Department of Justice also failed to obtain answers from both of those organizations as well. But they also claim that basically they're being told there's no jurisdiction. That's one of those things about it happening on Antarctica. It's kind of like if it happened in the middle of the ocean, you're not on anybody's property. So in January of 2007, 7 years after the death of Marks, the case was again front page news in New Zealand when documents obtained from under the U.S. Freedom of Information Act suggested that there was diplomatic pressure that was brought to bear on New Zealand during this inquiry. So basically, even New Zealand was told by higher ups to kind of, take it easy on this investigation.
That's mind-blowing.
Well, I'm not surprised. I mean, I don't know what's so special about Antarctica, but here we are. But basically, the coroner could not find any evidence to support theories that this was a prank that had gone wrong, nor was it a suicide. So everyone's pretty certain that he was killed on purpose.
My God, can you imagine if it was a prank?
That would be crazy.
That would have been awful.
Just like, I didn't mean to kill him.
So guilty.
Right? Like, I just wanted him to
live with the death of a human being.
Yeah, that would be, I mean, I've done some stupid things and I'm lucky nobody died, but yeah, that would mess you up pretty bad, I would think.
Yeah.
And basically his family, Marx's family, has given up hope of ever learning what really happened.
Oh, that's sad.
Yeah, his father is quoted saying, "I don't think we're ever going to find out any more in regards to how Rodney died. I see that as a fruitless exercise." So Rodney Marks was buried in Belbury Cemetery in Victoria, Australia. And they did create a memorial for him at a place on Antarctica called Mount Marks. And it's actually in a mountain region called the Worcester Range of Antarctica, which I thought was weird because I'm from
That
Worcester.
is great.
And that memorial is at a height of 2,600 meters or 8,500 feet above sea level for now. We'll see what happens with global warming. And they erected a plaque for him at the base of that. Yeah, and that was finished in January of 2001 as a memorial to Marks. Unfortunately, that's all we know. That is the crazy case of Rodney Marks and the only murder in Antarctica. What do you guys think?
That was a pretty crazy case.
Yeah, I love that there's only been one. Like, how nuts is that?
It was like I'd expect more people to die from like frostbite and like natural diseases and stuff.
Well, and there may have been. This is the only known murder case. But I say only known because we don't know if pirates have ever gone down there and killed people. I don't know about that. And who knows, these penguins that are apparently running around with guns. All right, James.
The mafia penguins.
Right. Jameson, your thoughts?
So my thoughts are that it's horrible that this is just kind of swept under the rug and there's so many unknowns. And I mean, yeah, he wasn't, a well-known and stellar guy, but like I would have thought that even with the jurisdiction issues, they would have tried a little bit more.
Yeah, I agree. Like if one of my coworkers turned up dead, I'd at least answer police questions. I mean,
Yeah,
that's the least you
exactly.
can do.
Like human decency just kind of failed here.
I
You
think
at least
so.
try your hardest to find out who did it.
Yeah,
Like help in any way you can.
I just wonder how many of the people that work for this company, because if they were trying to pressure the government of New Zealand, how much pressure were on these individuals, these people, to not talk? Like, what were they offered?
Right. I bet they were probably paid off to not say anything.
And it's been almost 20 years. Well, it's been 20 years since his death. Yeah, so it's been a while. So we'll never know at this point.
Yeah, unfortunately not.
That's sad. Hopefully his family can find some peace.
Yeah.
All right. That's everything. Thank you for joining us, Nova.
Thank you.
Yeah. And we'll see everyone next week when we do another case. Once again, I am Janus Dead.
I'm Jameson dead.
I'm Nova.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.